Welcome to r/Entitled Parents, where we share stories of moms or dads who think that because they have kids, they're entitled to everything, and stories about spoiled children with their entitled parents. And today's first story is How I Was Almost Trapped in an Arranged Marriage. I grew up in a cult that believed, among other things, that women were the property of men and children were the property of parents. So, as an unmarried daughter, I was basically a cherished slave. I ran the house, meal planned, cooked, and even homeschooled my youngest siblings, all while trying to homeschool myself through high school. Having grown up my whole life this way, I didn't even know the law would have been on my side if I had decided to defy my parents and move out when I turned 18. My parents constantly reminded me that until they gave me away to a husband, I was still their child and would obey them as the mouthpieces of God in my life. One day, my parents told me they had received a phone call from the parents of another family we knew. Their oldest son had noticed me and wanted permission to court me. So, per protocol, the parents would talk to each other, then each talk to their kids and arrange the whole thing. My mom was beaming with pride, but I thought about it for a little bit and said I didn't want to do it. Mom's smile disappeared and she cried, "What? Why?" I gave her my reasons, very good ones I thought, but my parents weren't satisfied and told me I was not allowing God to work in my life and that I should just obey them and trust that God's will would be done. Being the good girl I was, I relented and said yes. Then followed a week or two of awkward family gatherings between our two houses, because this version of courtship never allowed for the couple to be alone together. I tried to ease the tension by telling funny stories and encouraging other family members to talk, but only received stern rebukes from his mother, who very clearly did not approve of me. Once she said, "We don't believe in practical jokes," so we were not impressed by that story. I mumbled that I wasn't trying to impress them and they could talk about anything they wanted, but no one did. Another time, I was alone with his mom in the living room, and she stated, I only had two requirements on the girl he chose. One, that she came from a good family, and two, that she knew her Bible. And you have both of those, so I'm not going to say anything. I was confused at feeling so rejected when I didn't even want this in the first place. I mean, really, who was courting who? Then, I got a job offer as the church receptionist, and my parents told me his parents had called them again and said they did not approve of women working outside the home and didn't want me to take the job. We believed the same way, except it was after the woman was a mother. Before she had kids, it was up to her father or husband whether or not she could work someplace else. This being a strange situation where my father allowed it, but the guy I was courting didn't, my parents told me to call him and get his permission too. I thought that the phone call went well. He basically said he was not my husband yet and I should follow my own family's rules. He didn't mind and was okay with it. So I happily accepted the job. The next day, my parents told me his parents had called and canceled the whole relationship. It felt weird to get dumped without ever hearing from the guy dumping me, but it solved my problem, and I moved on a little confused, and definitely not in the mood for anyone else to court me. 2 years later, at 19, I still wasn't married. Shocker, and his family thought that meant God was saving me for him. The whole scenario repeated itself, but this time, my dad insisted that the guy court him first so he could decide if he was even good enough for me, before my heart got broken again. My dad told them until he made a decision one way or the other, he did not want any of them to contact me and tell me what was going on. The guy decided no contact couldn't possibly mean letters, so he wrote me a 5-page apology for dumping me 2 years before and confessing that he had been falling in love with me and wanted to know if it was worth his time to even get to know my dad. My parents saw his name on the envelope and confiscated the letter before finally deciding it was too late, and they explained the whole thing. I was honestly insulted that a guy I had barely seen in 2 years would say he loved me, but doubt if it was worth his time to follow my family's requirements to court me. Especially after the last time he tried it, his family made me feel like trash. We agreed to meet at a local restaurant and agree on the terms of the relationship and decide if we even wanted to try it again. I sat on one side of the table with my parents on either side of me. He sat on the other side with his parents on either side of him. It felt like we had lawyers. His dad immediately started yelling at my dad for denying his son and saying it was so obvious that I wanted this and he was holding me back. My dad is a quiet man, and he sat there like an angry stone while this man yelled at his face in the middle of the restaurant. It got so heated and embarrassing, the guy who liked me excused himself to the bathroom to throw up. While he was gone, his dad also said if we didn't accept his son, there might never be another guy to come along and marry me. This made me laugh because I wasn't that desperate to just accept the first guy to ask just because I was scared no one else would. I didn't care if I ever got married or not, even though I didn't dare tell anyone else that. The evening ended with an agreement that we would pick up where we left off. We thought that meant more courtship. They thought they already did courtship, so now it was an agreement to get engaged. The mistake quickly revealed itself a few days later when another guy friend I had, new guy, emailed my dad himself and asked permission to court me. My dad told me I should tell the guy I was courting and ask him if I could stay friends with the guy who liked me, but who I had rejected. The guy came up with what I thought was a pretty good plan. My dad would tell him I was already courting someone else, and then I could introduce him to some of my other friends, and then maybe he would leave on his own. I thought that was brilliant, and my dad spent the rest of the evening writing a tactful reply to the new guy. The guy I was courting was now aware that I had friends who were not female. Their family believed guys and girls could never be just friends, so I was essentially cheating on him with 20 other guys. He called me the next morning, 6 days after I had agreed to this courtship, and asked my permission to ask my dad's permission to ask me to marry him. Basically the lamest over-the-phone proposal ever. He said he was in love with me, and we didn't have to get married right away, but that I would just be his and have a ring on my finger, so no one could take me away from him. I told him I was flattered that he thought he loved me, and I wished I could say I loved him back, but I didn't. It had only been 6 days, and I hadn't even decided how I felt about him yet. His voice changed instantly, and he angrily snapped, asking if I was still talking to that guy who also liked me. I was shocked. I had never seen this side of him before. That's why it should take longer than 6 days to find a spouse, kids. I tried telling him that my dad had only just replied to his email, and I hadn't had a chance to introduce him to my friends yet. He said, "That wasn't the plan. We agreed you wouldn't talk to him anymore." I shut him down and said, "Whoa, I'm only doing what you told me to do. We're not engaged yet. I talk to lots of guys and it doesn't mean anything romantic. We're just friends." His voice quieted down, but still sounded bitter, and he said, "Well, if you can't agree to not talk to any other boys and only talk to me, maybe we shouldn't call this courting right now." "Maybe we shouldn't," I replied. We agreed that I would take a week to think about it and call him when I had made my decision. Marry him and forsake all the male friends I had known since I was 5, or cut off the relationship for the second time. I told my parents what happened, and they tried to convince me to just do what he wanted, but I finally yelled at them for the first time in my life that I was not going to marry anyone I did not love. My dad was angry, but my mom sent me to my room and said we could talk about it later. I had a week after all. I was very sad. The only reason I was considering it was because my parents insisted it was God's will, and I really wanted to do what God said. But at the same time, this family seemed even more strict than my own, and I would also miss all my old friends. There was so much to think about. About an hour later, I got 2 calls from this guy's mother, which I let go to voicemail. I didn't want to talk to her right then. Next thing I know, my little brother came up holding the house phone, saying it was the guy's mom, and she demanded to talk to me. She scolded me for a long time, saying I had cheated on her son and that he had called off work this morning because he was worried sick over calling me and asking me to marry him. She all but called me a harlot because of all the guys I was talking to, while I tried to tell her I was not in a relationship with any of them. Guy's mom, you cheated on him. You are in a relationship with every person you meet. Me, but not every relationship is a romantic one. Guy's mom, between guys and girls, yes. For example, my husband is my best friend, and I would never talk to other men, and neither would your mom. Me, oh yes she would. She talks to other men all the time, and she's friends with lots of people. Guy's mom, well I'm shocked. I honestly thought better of her than that. She then demanded to know why I needed 7 days to pray about whether or not to marry her son. Guy's mom, God doesn't take that long to answer prayer. It sounds like you already know how you feel and you're just too scared to say it. It should take a day or 2 at the most. Me, look, your son agreed to let me have a week. If he can't do that, then the answer is no. Guy's mom, well, let's not be too hasty. I thought, who's being hasty? I wanted a week. She then told me she would go talk to her son and her husband and see what they wanted to do. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. I had never been accused of anything like that before, and I curled up in a ball and cried. My mom heard me and came to see what was wrong. When I told her everything that horrible woman said to me, and I stated firmly that I never wanted to see anyone from that family again. She called my dad up, and he was angry for me being accused of being a harlot with all these boys, but told me I was not allowed to make my decision until a week was up, because that was what I had agreed to. I just silently told myself they could all think what they wanted, but I knew my answer was no, and it would still be no a week from now. He called the family back and told them none of them were to contact me in any way, shape, or form for the whole week, and when I had made my decision, he would call them and let them know what it was. They were angry, but they never contacted me again. Almost 2 years later, I married the new guy who had emailed my dad. Remember him? He was not a member of our cult and taught me how to think for myself. Our courtship looked a lot more like dating than anything else and made a lot of people upset, but we didn't care. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary and we have 3 sons. I feel like I was rescued. The next story is, Entitled Mom Knows Better Than the Doctor. Less than a week later, Entitled Mom, otherwise known as my stepmother, gives me another story to tell. Cast: me, oui, c'est moi. EM, Entitled Stepmother. GD, Granddad. LS, Little Sister. On to the show. I recently had a stomach problem where I couldn't go to the toilet properly. I won't go into details, and I went to go see a doctor, as it had been going on for about 2 days. Entitled Mom couldn't take me because she had to go shopping, and my dad was at his work. So Granddad has to come and pick me up and take me to the doctor's. We talked to the doctor, blah blah blah, and he told me to take something called Benefiber, which is just wheat. I bought some on the way home with Granddad. When we got back home, Entitled Mom had to do something important. So Entitled Mom told me to go home with Granddad. Entitled Mom hasn't specified when to come back or anything, so it was a surprise when I got a phone call from her asking where I was and why I wasn't home. When I got driven back, I took the Benefiber with me inside. Entitled Mom, what's that? Me, it's Benefiber. Entitled Mom, what's that? Me, it's just wheat to help me digest food properly. The questions went on, so I'll skip ahead a little. Entitled Mom, give me the container. I hand it over and she reads the contents. Entitled Mom, my God, they think this is good for you? All it is wheat. Entitled Mom, you should be having this instead. It's better and healthier for you. The container she hands to me is one of those vegan-run companies, and it contains stuff that I don't need. Me, I'll have the Benefiber and that's it. Entitled Mom, but that's bad for you and you should trust me. Me, sure, I'll trust 5 minutes of internet experience over someone with 5 years of medical experience. Entitled Mom, yes, you should trust me over the doctor. I sighed and walked away. I thought that was it, but no. Later that day, Entitled Mom tells my dad and little sister that the Benefiber is bad for me. Dad tells her that it's not and walks off to go do something for work. Little sister believes Entitled Mom, and when I next put it over my soup, little sister says it's bad for me and I'll keep getting sick. I tell her that it's what the doctor gave me, but she says Entitled Mom is always right. Ah well, it's fine now, or is it? The next morning I wake up and go to have breakfast. I'm not going to school, and Entitled Mom doesn't have a job, so she's at home. I make my breakfast and look for the Benefiber. I can't see it anywhere, so I ask Entitled Mom where it is. She keeps looking at her phone and says she doesn't know. I feel like something is up, so I look in the bin, and hey presto, it's sitting right there at the top. I don't tell Entitled Mom, but I get it out and wash it and then use some. Entitled Mom comes over, looks at what I'm doing, and has a disgusted look. She just stares at me, then walks away. Thanks for listening. Bye.